Hello there and welcome. Welcome to the 5th episode for the year 2022 of the Mind and Muse Crochet podcast. I am your host, Caroline. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome back, and if you are a returning viewer, I thank you for pressing that watch button to come and spend some time with me. And if you're a new viewer who just found this podcast, well, thank you also for pressing that watch button and making that move and just daring to see what this podcast is about. I am your host, Caroline, and every couple of weeks I try to come back to this channel and share with you what I call the crafty side of my life, which is nothing but that part of my life that I dedicate to practicing certain crafts, mostly crochet, but every once in a while I'll have some needle felting, a little bit of knitting, and there hasn't been sewing for a long time, but that can happen too. Basically, mostly all of the crafts that I was taught when I was younger, and some that I have learned along the way. So, once again, thank you for joining me. And if you have any comments about this podcast that you would like to share with me, any recommendations, any projects of yours that you would like to share, or just something that you would like to send me, show me, share with me, don't forget that I have a email address dedicated only to this podcast. It is mindandmuse@gmail.com, mindandmuse@gmail.com. There is no crafts at the end of that email address because that email address was acquired long before I acquired the space where I keep my blog and therefore renamed this space on YouTube. So the email does not have crafts at the end. Simply mindandmuse@gmail.com. And that's your best bet for writing to me and for me seeing it and being able to contact you and maybe start some type of a conversation or virtual relationship through more direct messaging. I am also available on Instagram if you like to go by there, and my handle is also Mind and Muse Crafts, so you could look me up, follow me if you're not doing so already. And I do post, not really, well, as of late, I have not been posting frequently, but I do think that I have a page, a feed that you can look at and more or less get an idea of what I am generally up to and decide whether you would like to follow that or not. So there are several ways that you can maintain the contact with me outside of this recording. I am also on Ravelry, though I have to admit that this year has been really hectic for me and I have not been able to keep my Ravelry page up to date. I know that not many of my latest projects are on there, but I'm there. So, all forms and way in which we can keep in touch if you're not listening to one of these recordings. Now, if you'll notice the title of this episode, Grieving with Crochet, and it's probably not the first time on this channel that I have shared with you a moment of grief, and so I hope you won't mind. I do hope you won't mind, but since the recent events in our family life have basically changed terribly how I would, well, the amount of time I would spend crafting and how I would spend it, I think I kind of like owe you some form of an explanation. For example, you will have noticed that there was not a episode 6 when there should have been one, which should have been around the end of March, March 30th, March 28th. And instead, I did upload the first tutorial that I've ever made for my channel, which was a tutorial for the Hounds tooth earring. And I'll put up a picture here because I forgot to bring them with me. But I did speak about them and share them with you on previous episodes. So you can also go back or an episode or two if you want more information about that design. At the moment, all of my designs are free. So I think them up, try to write them as best as I can in instructions, or in this case, in video. I tried to give you the instructions of how to do this in video. But if you don't like the video, you can go to my blog, which is Mind and Muse Crafts. And one of the pages to that blog is a page called Free Crochet Patterns. And you can find the crochet pattern there, either to use instead of or to use along with the tutorial that I have provided for you on my channel. And so I hope you, not many people looked at that. I know it's not a thing. Not everybody who likes to watch podcasts likes to watch tutorials. That you need to find like more time for, because it's dedicated time, right? That you're going to sit down and do something with the person who is hosting the tutorial. So I understand that a lot of people just don't sit down and look at tutorials or listen to tutorials while they are doing other things. But ultimately, I have noticed that the channel is receiving fewer views. And I don't know, right now, the world is so messed up that I don't blame anybody for not wanting to turn on YouTube. And I also don't blame anybody who has had a change in their lifestyle because I just don't want to hear any more about this, or I don't want to know any more about this, or I just want to close myself off for a while for whatever reason. I get it. But I have noted that, and I say it because every once in a while when you get bogged down with the idea that nobody's listening to you, or you get bogged down with imposter syndrome, where you think, why the heck am I doing this? What am I doing this for? And then you'll look at those numbers and you'll feel a little discontent and not as rewarded as, well, I would have felt. But we're talking about years, maybe 2 or 3 years back. And I'm just going to go with the flow here. I'm just going to go with the flow in the good faith that there are people out there who want to share this part of my life with me. So that being said, even though there are fewer views on each of the episodes that I have that I have uploaded lately, I'm going to continue here. I'm going to continue because I like doing this. So the reason, like I said, that I didn't put up that podcast on the 28th was because on March the 26th, one of my sisters who had been ill for many years, but a couple of weeks previous to that day, she took a turn for the worse because she was denying the treatment that she required to not get better, but at least to have a better life. So she passed away after much suffering for her and for all those around her on the 26th of March. And so, even though we knew for weeks that this was going to happen, she actually outlived the time that the doctors had given her. And they kept on saying she shouldn't be here yet. She should be here still. But yeah, lo and behold, she was. you know, it's just something that even though you build it up for weeks, and I was calling her every couple of days, every day in the end, you think you're prepared, but you never are. Trying to keep my poise here. So sorry if I take a break every once in a while. Anyway, as you can see, it is still a subject, a tender subject for me, to say the least. We celebrated her life as a family, virtually, because she was in New York. And I was trying to find the right way for me to keep her memory alive for me, and at the same time unload my heavy heart. And as would be natural in a crafter, I decided to do so through crochet. And initially, I had been watching for some times a crochet artist called José Dammers, and she's from the Netherlands, and I am going to share a little bit of her feed with you as a previously made recording so that you could see why I was motivated by her work. So I'll share that with you and then come back. On Instagram, I follow a Dutch artist who goes by the name of José Dammers. She is a crochet artist and textile artist. This is her Instagram page. One of the reasons that I started following her was because she is a freeform crochet artist, and I think she does beautiful work in portraits. So here's her page, and I just wanted to go through some of these and just show you what beautiful portraits she creates. Now she does this with freeform crochet. So that is a whole different story in terms of what crochet is. You can use basically any crochet stitch, but they have some basic rules for you to follow that keep your work straight and manageable and flat. Whereas her more recent course is a course specifically in freeform abstract portrait. And that is actually the one that I was interested in. I did contact her to ask if she thought that it was necessary to have the first course before we started the second course. Once I paid for the first course, I wasn't so convinced that I actually needed to go that basic in order to learn how to do the portrait course, because there was some repetition. There is some repetition in terms of how to perform the stitches, which is basically what you need. How do I perform the stitches so that without following instructions, I basically follow my heart and follow my gut, I can create a portrait similar to an idea that I have in mind or a picture or photograph that I have. And so that is what I was most interested in. Being able to create a portrait using just stitches, beginning with an idea, a sketched idea, and then taking that idea and creating it in crochet. because basically you'll see throughout her page that that is what she does. She's got a basic sketch, well maybe not basic, but it's a sketch of what she wants to create. And then from the sketch, she goes to the crochet. Crocheting the pieces, connecting the parts, and filling in gaps. All of those are the things that you learn in her course. And so it intrigued me, and it still does, just looking to see if my favorite one is I can find quickly. But I think this is just beautiful. I really do. I think her art is great artwork. I believe this is artwork from one of the students that took her class. I was hoping that, well, yes, if I took the course, I would be able to do something similar. And that is still my hope. Okay, so that is her feed on Instagram. And as you could see from it, she is a very talented artist. And I registered in one of the courses that she created, which is simply an introduction to freeform crochet. And as I said in the presentation, I spoke with her and she thought that it was best to take the first course before taking the second one. But after taking the course, I was like in my doubts if I could have taken that directly, the course that I wanted, which was a course to make crochet portraits. That is what I wanted to do. I wanted to crochet a portrait of my sister, and I thought that would be a beautiful way to celebrate her life and to keep her in my constant memory, and to just let out the energy that I was storing up from all of this love that, well, let's just face it, when a person isn't present, you share love with them in a different way, right? The love we share within us, and that cannot be manifested in a physical form, is a different form of energy. So I needed to get out that excess energy that I had built up over those days, knowing that she wouldn't be with us for long. And I thought the best way that I could do that was through a long-term, delicate, mindful work of art. Ultimately, I practiced the first course. I purchased and practiced the skills of the first course. I even have with me let's say my practice swatch. In freeform crochet, this is what they call a scrumble. And so I'm showing you here basically what in that first course you learn. You learn basically the different stitches that you can use to make scrumbles that later you join together to create the end product, the end design that you want. And so I created one scrumble, and I wanted to turn this into a fairy house. And I still want to do that. But I haven't been able to work on it as much, even to complete it, because my mind just went on to something else. Doing this, I thought of another way that I would honor and celebrate my sister's life. So I put this on hold, though I have to say that I do find this very pretty. even though I haven't the slightest idea what it is. But the idea with Freeform is you are working without instructions. So you are basically following your heart or your gut, if I haven't said that before. So there are two ways, I guess, that you can work it. You can just create scrumbles of different sizes, different shapes, and with using different stitches, and then join them together, and then fill in the gaps to just create an open design. It might turn out to look like something. It might be just a design, just like an impressionist painting, let's say. That's one way. Another way to work through it is to create a sketch of what it is you want to end up with. And then subdivide that sketch into different shapes and forms that you will freeform, that those will become your scrumbles, and you'll join together to create that design, that specific, be it a fairy house like I wanted, or a mushroom, or a tree, or a face, any type of design. So thinking about making a portrait with that, number one, I needed a large portrait of her from which I could choose my colors and the different shapes that I wanted for each part of her face. But I didn't have one. I found that freeform crochet would be too open and too unguided for my current mind state. So I wasn't sure that if I sat down with the skills to make a crochet portrait, if I would complete it. So I wanted something more guided. And then when I was conversing with my niece about the memorial, and just about my sister in general, we were remembering that her favorite songs. And the song that I most remember of and relate to my sister at the last moment where I spent time with her before she left home when she was about 19 was a song called Tapestry by Carole King. So my niece told me that yes, she remembered all of them, that her mother would play those songs for them over and over again when they were young, and that they were very familiar with them. So I decided at that moment that what I wanted to do was I wanted to create a tapestry crochet painting that went along with the song Tapestry. Now, YouTube won't let me put on that song for you if you are not familiar with the song, but I can include a link so you can look it up. As a matter of fact, you can stop right now, look it up, and listen to it. And then in the description box, I'll do that, in the description box. And so you can see the imagery, where the image is coming from. And I will also share it on my computer screen as a separate little video so that you can see how I went about creating this. So I'm going to take you through the story of, it occurs to me that I want to create a painting in tapestry crochet of this idea and how I went about doing it. And then I'll come back and I'll share with you my tapestry, and I'll end by sharing with you some ideas of how Stitch Fiddle, which is the program that I use to do these things, has been very helpful. New things that I have learned about Stitch Fiddle that have been very helpful. So I am going to leave you with another version of me. Right, so I wanted to share with you how I go from inspiration or idea to the execution of that idea, especially, well, at least in this case. So here I have for you the words, the lyrics of the song Tapestry, in case you have never seen that before. So let me just share with you which of the images were calling out to me. So I wanted to represent her with this. And what I did would be, knowing that those were the things, let's say, that I wanted to make stand out. The fact that I've got a tapestry in which there are bits of blue and gold, and in which there is a soft silver sadness in the sky, in which a drifter appears, and the description of how he was wearing torn and tattered clothes, and specifically a coat of many colors. The way he reached up into the tree and reached for something golden, and his hand came down empty. The idea that there is magic and that he follows, sits upon a river rock, and turns into a toll. And so these were the images that I wanted to share in my painting. So I use PowerPoint to do this, which is why I came into PowerPoint. And in PowerPoint, what I would do is, starting out with a blank page, and I would go to the internet and look for free clip arts that I can put together and create a painting. So, for example, once I have them saved, I will insert them. So, for example, the idea of there being a road, some form of a road, and there being a tree that the man reaches up for, and a rock, a river rock, where the toad sits. So I found this one and I thought it was appropriate for my background. Now, in that image, I also wanted maybe a man in a coat of many colors. But he's going to reach for the tree, so I'm going to kind of like leave him kind of big. And that's just PowerPoint suggesting things for me. We also have a toad upon the rock and a figure that's gray and ghostly. So I also got those figures. Let's see. Gray and ghostly. And I'll just bring them all up at once so that I don't tire your patience with this. Okay, so we'll try and separate them. I want to be able to take the apple, for example, and put it in the tree and probably reduce it in size a lot. Because you just kind of like want it hanging from the tree. And then this is my image that I maybe also, oops, would really like to make it smaller, and then maybe put it somewhere up here. Still too big. So basically that's what I do. I look for images all over the internet, and I'm missing my toad somewhere, but anyway, you've got the idea. If you want to do this, and I say find royalty-free or clip art that you can actually, they don't have a copyright, you don't fall into copyright infringement when you use them. That is kind of like important to me. However, since once my image is created, I am going to take it to Stitch Fiddle to make it into a tapestry. I am not so much worried because these figures are not going to look anything like they look now once I get them into Stitch Fiddle, and I'll show you why in a moment. But that's the idea. I start out in PowerPoint, collecting my images, sort of like positioning them, and then I will basically save this image as instead of a PowerPoint, I will save it as an image file. It could be JPG or PEG or whatever. But I will save it as an image file. So this is my chart created in Stitch Fiddle. So notice that a lot of things change, right? My ghostly figure lost a lot of his the specificness, right? The details, because I wasn't using all of those colors so that he could look like a shadow. And my tree, notice how for my tree I decided I was going to have 1, 2, the light green, the dark green, and some of the silver sky shining through. So 3 colors. Here's my apple now. And then the background of sort of like mountain ranges or whatever they are, I chose 2 different colors. The silver for the sky. Here's my coat in many colors. And notice how my sister changed from a sort of oriental style figure to this figure. That to me, well, sort of resembles, I see her more in that. And plus, because the other image was pretty much distorted, so you have to add to what Stitch Fiddle can do. So I had to draw around what I was given to kind of like fill it in and make it look like what I wanted. So that's why I'm not so much worried about copyright in these images, because they are basically almost nothing like they were when I picked them up from the internet. Basically, what I am looking for is sort of like this silhouette that I can use as a guideline image for what I wanted to create. Welcome back again. I hope that was entertaining for you. I just wanted to share a little bit of my creative process with you. We don't all think, and sometimes we don't all think the same. Let me complete my sentence. And sometimes we believe that we can't do something, and we actually can if we just put it together bits by bits. And to also show you that a lot of this, we can be helped by outside technology, be it somebody that gives you a sketch or whatever, and you don't have to do it all yourself. I guess that's what I wanted to share with you. And so then, in addition to that, I did want you to be able to see up to where I have worked up to now. Anyway. This is what I have worked up to now. I gave her a black border that wasn't in the original design, and I will put that border also at the top when I'm finished, and I'm thinking about maybe putting it around. Notice that I have left my tapestry to unravel at the edges. I've also left my tapestry to unravel at the back. I have been using what is called the cut, or what do you do first? You tie and then you cut, your cut and tie method for tapestry crochet, which might be a contradiction because tapestry crochet in itself has a set of rules, if you want, a set of techniques, but it has been modified. Notice that around here I've been carrying my yarn in some places. In some places I have been carrying my yarn at the back of my crochet, as you can see here. Whoops. Maybe around here you can see that some of my colors are showing through. And at other places I just tied little knots at the back. And I've been working it up. I've been working it up. I wanted to have it much more advanced than I have it right now. I think that the cut and tie method also is distorting a little bit the shape because of the fact that I might be tying it too tight. I don't yet have a consistent technique for tying, and so it is somewhat distorted, that I am hoping that I can steam it, black it, and take the piece back to its rectangular shape. But that's still a long ways out. I am currently, I believe I am at row maybe 32. There are 75 rows in my painting and 100 stitches across. And so if I'm on 32, I'm not yet at the halfway mark. I'm not yet at the halfway mark. And I'm a little bit distraught because I don't know what's going to happen with my tapestry because of the fact that I leave for New Hampshire again at the end of the week. I start my trip by traveling to Florida. I'll meet up with my daughter Clarissa for a couple of days. And that is basically because if I were to travel directly, I would probably have something like a 12-hour turnover, and I am not going to wait for 12 hours in an airport. So I'm going to stay in with Clarissa for a while, and then I think basically I'm going to stay for maybe 7 or 8 days, and then I will continue my trip to Alabama. My grandson has continued to progress, but at this point he needs a surgery, and so it is called for that I return so I can help out while he is recovering. Since both my son and his wife are working, they need somebody there in the house with them. So I don't know what's going to happen to my tapestry because there are so many colors. This is being worked up on Aunt Lydia's Petra and Omega mercerized cotton number 3. So it's basically a thick lace weight, and so I am using a 2-point at the point. I started out with a 2.25 crochet hook and found that my gauge was too tight, and it was twisting my tapestry, so I went up to a 2.5 and it's working better. It might have been able to, maybe it could have taken a 3mm and still looked well, not looked too holy. But I'm okay with a 2.5 on. I'll just finish it. It's a trial, so if it comes out well and I want to make a second one better or a different version or a larger version or someone else in the family wants it, then I can make it again. But for now, I'm going to take it with all of its mistakes, and I'm hoping it'll turn out well. So there was still something else that I wanted to share with you about using stitch fiddle. Something that I had never experienced before. I usually print out my written instructions and cross them out one by one as I do the line. But for this, on this occasion, I actually found it more helpful to use stitch fiddle to help me continuously know where I'm at, what colors I need, what instructions I am working on, what row I am working on, and also allow me to edit any mistakes that I find in my written instructions in case I decide to do this again. So once again, I am going to leave you with past Caroline so that she can explain to you and describe to you some applications of stitch fiddle that, well, were there, I just never used them before, and how they can help with tapestry crochet. So I hope you enjoy this. Okay, so here we are in Stitch Fiddle, which, as I have mentioned before, is the program that I use to create my graphs or my charts. In this case, I have used it to create the tapestry that I am calling Betty's Tapestry, because it is made to represent a song. Like I mentioned, that was one of my sister's favorites when, just before she left home, when she was 18 or 19. And it was called Tapestry by Carole King. As a matter of fact, that was also the name of the entire album for that year. What I wanted to show you on this occasion was the fact that I have discovered that if I am in the editing view of my chart, because there are other views that I can take, but in the editing view, if I, under view, say that I want to view my instructions, and that I also want to see sort of like the legend, and you can see there are a lot of other things I can do, but what I wanted to show you was that if I'm sitting down, I'm actually using my computer instead of printing out the instructions. It's very helpful to have this in what they call here the progress tracker, because the progress tracker darkens everything except the line that I'm working on, and then it will move along with me, and as it moves along with me, it changes the instructions that are at the bottom of the screen and the colors that you can use in that row. You can't see them all, but underneath what you can see here, this program has listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. 5 colors. Well, I can bring this down momentarily, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors that the program tells me you're going to use on this line, on this row, and that helps for management, doesn't it? For yarn management, so I know out of all those 20 spools of colors, which ones I need to have out at a current time. And then I've got the instructions here, and I've also got here the row. And that's helpful because sometimes when you're working with a lot of colors, and especially colors that are similar, a dark brown, a black, a dark gray, it sometimes you can't actually see clearly in the chart that by mistake you have colored in a box a color that shouldn't be. So I usually like to look through the row and also look through the instructions, and then I can edit that row. If the colors are incorrect, it will edit both the row and the instructions, and then I can sort of like test this design as I go along. And so, I don't know, let's say, for example, I had noticed a mistake on that row. I could go to Edit, and under Edit Chart, then let's suppose that I had wanted these shoes to be dark brown, and I realized that they were black, so then I could just take my dark brown, fix those 4 boxes, and you'll notice that my instructions have changed appropriately. My instructions has changed. Now that wasn't what I wanted to do. I don't want dark brown, so I'm just going to use my undo button here. Put it back the way it was. Of course, I could, click on them again with the color black, but just notice down here the way my black is updated. And so I think that's a great feature when you have your chart made up and you think that you might want to test it and publish this for other people to use, or for yourself to make another copy of this later on. And so as you go, you can fix the graph and not have to remember everything as you go along. So that was just one feature that I had never used in Stitch Fiddle that I wanted to share with you today. Well, back to me again. I hope you enjoyed that short description of things that I have learned in the process of trying to design a tapestry crochet in my sister's memory. But my plan is to continue this project. It has helped me grieve, believe me. It has eased the pain. It has eased the emptiness. And it is kind of like filled, more than like eased. It has filled the void. It has filled the emptiness and allow me to work mindfully, remembering my sister continuously, but not turning emotional. You're not rationalizing, if you want to say, my emotions, so that I can turn that energy into a product, into something that I will be pleased to see on my wall every day. So, thank you for listening to me through all of this. It is very helpful to have people to talk to about what we're going through. People that I know have to be able to identify, because I know a lot of you have lost loved ones, especially with all the recent events of the pandemic. And I know you understand what I'm going through. You understand my sadness. You understand my not wanting to do certain things at the moment. You understand my desire to turn this energy that's just eating me up into something useful. You understand. And what I wanted to share with you today is that crochet and being creative through crochet is one way to do that. It is one way to take that pent energy and use it towards something, creating something beautiful. Something, turn your memory into something physical that you can touch. And so that will all make it a little less difficult, I hope, for you as it has for me. So thanks for joining me today. I apologize for this not being one of my regular episodes, but yes, I am very grateful for your presence and for your virtual friendships. So, till we meet again, keep yourself safe, keep yourself happy, and keep crafting. Bye for now.